Jump into it. Yeah, I feel like you can start. Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, fans from around the world. We're still talking about the elections in South Africa. ANC has experienced its worst elections in 30 years, losing its majority for the first time since Nelson Mandela's era, securing just over 40% of the vote. To continue this discussion this afternoon, I'd like to warmly welcome Mustafa Jinod all the way from Washington, D.C., and our brother Lerato from SA. You're welcome, guys.
Thank you. I'm Mustafa in DC. How are you doing, Lorato? Yeah,
Yeah,
in
man,
Pretoria,
I'm good, man. How are you
the
doing?
the capital city. Not bad. So very quickly, I was talking to Afolabi and I was like, the ANC has a pattern. They got rid of Mbeki, who was okay economically. They got rid of him, someone who fought for things like cheaper HIV drugs. Then they got rid of Zuma. They said because he's corrupt. Okay, I'm going to say that mostly, probably every politician on earth is corrupt, but I will say that Zuma has a history of negotiating a peace settlement in KwaZulu-Natal years ago before he became bald. I always say that, and he also tried to mediate to try to do a no to get rid of the no-fly zone in Libya, which allowed the U.S. to bomb Libya, destroy Libya, and then assassinate their president illegally, which has now caused the terrorism problem and migration problem in Europe. Now they have Ramaphosa, who's been here. He was linked to the lone man that was in Marikana, the shootings there. Because when nobody's saying that he was directly linked to the shooting, but he was on the board of trustees of the company that was involved in that. And now it looks like there's a crisis for him. So I say the ANC has a decision to make. Get rid of this guy. But I don't think they will because I think they found their person. They got rid of Mbeki and they got rid of Zuma. And I think they want not that ANC, but somebody's supporting Ramaphosa and keeping him in power. If history tells us when you make mistakes, you need to be gone. So it seems like the ANC needs to get rid of him like they did with the other two. What are your thoughts, Lorato? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think the ANC have set themselves a very dangerous precedent in how they deal with presidents in their second term, in their lame duck terms, as it's usually put.
Yeah.
Um, so it's very difficult for you to see um, anyone in their second term of presidency being very firm because
Yeah.
already there has been a consistent weakness.
Uh-oh, I think
um,
mute Salim for 1 minute or 2 minutes. Mute him. Salim,
Okay.
welcome, but we're going to mute you for a second until it's your turn to talk. Thank you. Okay, sorry,
yeah
he has a little bit of friction, but we'll solve it in a few minutes. Okay, okay.
so there has been a consistent decrease in electors turning up for the ANC since
Yeah,
94. It's been like a downward
yeah.
spiral.
Mm-hmm.
um so and every president has been said to be responsible for that. um but I don't know how. It's clearly going to be seen as Cyril's uh responsibility that the party didn't do so well this time also. um so yeah,
Yeah. And I'm hearing,
it's
yeah,
crazy
sorry, go
to
ahead,
see
continue.
how he's going to to
Yeah.
to last the entire term.
Yeah. Now, if I were ANC right now, either Ramaphosa steps down and they bring in someone who's more willing to adjust service delivery and things, and then maybe unite with EFF. I think MK will still be outside of the realm. I think they're more liable to go to EFF. But I think it's very possible that if Ramaphosa stays in office, they could even coalesce with DA. And if they do that, that's the end of the ANC. But they may be so desperate to do it because the U.S. and Western interests might be funding them and say, "Hey, you got to do what we want to do, no matter what." What do you think about that? Do you think that's I'm not saying it's likely, but do you think it's a possible scenario? Yeah,
um
that. But
yeah
basically, what I'm saying is that it's a possible scenario that because we know DA is funded by Western interests and ANC
yeah
is corrupt. And my thing is that Ramaphosa has a decision to make. Either he's going to have to go with DA or go with EFF or MK, ANC can't stay by its own. So giving all those variables, what are your thoughts about it? Yeah.
Yeah, no, nothing has been said outright in terms of who they think they're going to coalesce with, and I think it's all going to be like bargaining in terms of
Yeah.
who wants which position and who wants what.
Yeah.
And anything is possible with the ANC.
Yeah. And
I don't consider them to be strictly principled. I mean,
they don't
I
have any
don't put,
principle. They don't have any principle
yeah,
at all, I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
think.
I don't think I would outrule the idea that they would want to coalesce with the EFF, or they would want to coalesce with the MK even. They we
Yeah.
say,
So
in as much as they may be unpleased with the advent of the MK, but it is in some ways a devil of their own creation, and a devil that they know very well
oh
that
yeah,
they might want.
they lost choice. So there's a movie called The Wire where someone was a drug dealer, but he messed up his business. So a bigger drug team came and he asked questions. He said, why? And then the bigger drug dealer said, why is no longer part of your repertoire. So now choice is no longer part of ANC's repertoire. They lost it. Would you agree? They've lost it. And my prediction is, if you listen to Malema, he's always talking about BRICS and Russia and China, which gives me a hint that these guys are pumping money into him because they have developmental plans. And it means that ANC will follow that wind also. And South Africa challenged Israel, the only in the court of justice.
Yeah.
And they were also having ships coming in from Russia. We don't know where we're on those ships. But the fact is, and then also Naledi, her last name is Pandur, standing up to the US. So it's very clear that South Africa now is backed by BRICS powers like Russia and China, that's giving them the boldness to stand up against the West. So I doubt that ANC will coalesce with DA, because I also made a point. DA's funding is Western stuff, and the Western dollar is going down. These days are over, as far as I'm concerned. Last thoughts, Lerato, I had an early beer. Last thoughts before we go to Salim, and then we'll come back to you. What do you think about what I just said now?
Yeah. I think that the financial politics are still sort of murky,
Yeah. That's what we call the deep state.
as much
Deep
as
state.
yeah, in as much as we are aware of the dollar's gradual downfall, and overall, I mean, Europe's or the West,
decay. They are decaying, and Europe they used to brag that they don't have crime. You're seeing the decline of the Western Empire every way, just as like Rome. But sorry to interrupt you. Continue.
Yeah. But I think that the West, because you started this with the descent from SA with regards to Israel. I think the West has been the moral decay, or it's not even decay, but I mean it's sort of like something that we've always known, in terms of the West's sort of racial.
They have no more. I'm going to give you pushback. You're calling it moral decay. I call it the appearance of moral decay, because I never thought they have any moral standing
Exactly.
And I just think it's now the optics are here, because with optics now we can see. I don't think these people they have never been moral. Continue. Yeah.
It's clearly visible. We know.
But to support what you're saying is that on a second level, they're openly becoming with no moral decay. So they're becoming fascist. So you're right about that, because they haven't been fascist before. But I always tell people fascism is not an ideology. It's a symptom of when you lose power and now you do whatever you can to control it, which is what Israel is doing to Palestine, just bombing. And they don't care, because once you challenge the empire, it becomes fascist. So that, I think that's what you're talking about, moral decay. It's like now they're shamelessly immoral. Continues. Yeah.
For sure. They're saying the quiet part out loud, as most commentators have said. So I think South Africa has been clear on that, because we know that for example, the US supported the apartheid government at some point,
Oh
even
yeah.
the British at some point, you know. So our allegiances to those have always been very tenuous, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I was saying that South Africa is a Go ahead. Sorry.
when
Go
it
ahead.
comes to this, yeah, except of course when it comes to business,
Yeah.
because that's where the money has been coming from.
Yeah.
But of course
And I think
there is a shift.
yeah, and I think it just makes economic sense to join with BRICS. We're not saying that China and Russia are good countries, but out of necessity, even Nigeria. So I say South Africa and Nigeria are similar in that they're aligned, they're mixed with both systems, the IMF system and the BRICS system, which is okay because China and Russia and BRICS don't say you have to be one exclusively, but you have to honor the trade agreements. But I think the world is coming to a point now where to join BRICS now, you actually have to be in opposition to the Western system totally because BRICS is getting stronger. So, okay, so I'm going to go now to Salim. Can you put Salim back off of mute? Then we'll continue with you, Lorato. Thank you very much. This is a great show. I love the painting also behind you. Okay, so let's go to Salim. Salim, how are you doing? Yeah. Oh, you're still having serious issues with your. Is it your earphones? Maybe you need to take the earphones off. Yeah. Unplug them. Yeah.
Salim, can you re-enter the link?
It's better. See, Salim, your earphones were messing up the. I think we've solved the problem. They were messing it up. Don't worry about the earphones. If the sound is lower, it's better than the static. So, Salim, we wanted to ask you. So, what angles do you want to follow today about the elections and everything? Give us your views, because I know you didn't get enough time to talk last time. Yeah.
Well, I was actually.
Hold on. It sounds a lot better, right? Afolabi.
Yes, but
I'm the technical advisor. Take off your earphones. Okay, let's go. I love this. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Julius Malema had a speech on the idea of coalition between parties, and he refuses to accept President Ramaphosa as his president. He says it's your president, not mine. So
yeah,
it has went from everybody saying they want him off to those who voted for him saying that they still have the complaint that they don't want him as president anymore. But you voted for him.
Yes.
You see, so
I think his days are numbered in the ANC, but continue. Yeah.
I wanna be also second in command and say that we don't really need him anymore. He hasn't contributed as much to South Africa's economy. He hasn't contributed much to South African people per se.
I would say it's the opposite. And we know that Mbeki and Zuma had their issues, but he has actually dragged the country down into the abyss, almost the abyss. We're not in the abyss yet. Continue. Sorry.
So he just talked about his financials. Where does he get his financials from? Because he doesn't get it from agriculture at all. He doesn't have a farm per se. No. Besides
he said he sleeps. His pillow is made out of money. His pillow inside his pillow. Go ahead. I'm just joking. Go ahead.
So the complaint was actually based on he has $450 million in his account, but we don't even have any account of the money actually being used in South Africa in a way. So he mostly contributes in the economy outside, not inside.
Yeah, well, he's draining the economy because more than 70% of South Africa's GDP goes outside of the country. Continue.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
So from me today, I just feel like having to have watched the interview between Press and Julius Malema is just based on he says it doesn't matter where he stands. He stands with one thing, the idea of land reform, the idea of growth of South Africa, and the understanding of the people amongst everything.
So I want to give you a point. We're talking about Malema. Also, Malema was very graceful. He said that when Zuma went down in ANC, a lot of so he was basically saying that now that Zuma has a party, a lot of people who were voting for EFF have now gone to MK. And he said that it's okay because that's where their home is. I like what he said because he wasn't angry. He said he's not angry about losing them because he knows that he only got them after Zuma went down. So when Zuma went
Very
down from
true.
ANC, a lot of people went to EFF. So he said that he's not angry about losing, or he's not upset because. So it seems like Julius Malema is very pragmatic or stoic. I'll use the word stoic. He knows that what doesn't belong to you doesn't. And what he said was that we lost a lot of KZN voters to MK, but it's not a problem
Very true.
because that's what they love. Can you comment on that, and then we'll talk to Lorato, then we'll go to Afolabi. Yeah, yeah. So it goes to the point where he just tells the truth. The thing about Malema is that he just says what is true, whether you like it or not. So he knows, he's very logical. He knows that he can't be fighting for MK voters because he knows that. But that shows he's also strategic, and I think he's within the circle of power in South Africa. He knows that Ramaphosa's days are numbered. Can you speak to that? Then we'll go back to Lorato. Yeah.
Uh, he's correct actually. I back him 100%.
Yeah, I'm not saying I back him, but I'm saying he's telling the truth when he says that. Yeah.
I back him 100% because going back to the mine in Witbank, a lot of people who lost their jobs, some that side are still working at the moment. When it was 2020 COVID-19, people were actually working. There were mines that were owned by specific people that were closed down because of now liquidation. We need this. Some people didn't get paid. And one thing I know for sure, I think if you do your research very well, Jacob Zuma actually does own that mine.
Oh, he does. Wow, that guy's a power player.
The one in Witbank.
Yeah. So all these guys are in the game. Yeah. But go ahead. Sorry.
True. And you can actually tell when he brought the idea of the nuclear energy and all of that, he had the mind. He had the mind. He was willing to lose that so everybody could benefit from, to avoid the load shedding, to avoid specific things, to avoid
so are you saying that Zuma was, at some point, Zuma, even if he's corrupt, he doesn't want his country to go down the drain? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, I think I will agree with you. I think I will agree with you because I know Zuma, he's still a traditionalist. I'm not saying he's a perfect person. He's a traditionalist. And when you're a traditionalist, you don't, at least you don't want to see KZN go down, but you know that if the whole country goes down, KZN is going to go down also. Thank you for your points. I want to get Lorato back on what we've talked about. Do you have any points? Then we'll go to Afolabi.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I do think I did listen to a little bit of what Julius had to say at the press conference. And you're right to say that he's being very stoic. And we know rightly that he's going to stick to his guns with regards to what it is, what it is the EFF say they want. They have their 7 principles.
Oh yeah, can I say very quickly? Because in that speech, he said, I'm not going anywhere. Even defeat after defeat, I am here for the next 40, 50 years. Continues. Go ahead.
Yeah. So they're going to be fighting for those points that they have been fighting for. So we'll see who, how it turns out. But
you know what this is? This is Game of Thrones. It's Game of Thrones. It's Game of Thrones. Go ahead.
It's quite clear no one can form a strong coalition without the EFF. So they cannot exclude them from.
And so that's why and I still predict that within the next 16 or 20 years, Malema will be the president of South Africa. To me, that was clear when he was already in ANC youth movement. I'm not saying I support him, but he has that sort of charisma and touch and power. And from the years, his theory is getting better and better. I still think he needs to listen to guys like us who are 100% philosophers, but I still think he has some pretty good theory. We still have to test him on corruption and things like that, but I think he's doing okay. And I think that the EF, starting the EF was a good rebalancing. And I also think this MK is good because I think I told someone earlier, I think MK stands for traditionalism and the past, and EFF is more for like socialism and radicalism. And you need to find a negotiation between them. And ANC is still history and power. What are your thoughts, Lorato?
Yeah. I mean, I still think we still have the wrong picture of the ANC. It's all like media.
Yeah, so the ANC may be dead.
You know,
It actually may be another wing of the DA. I think ANC and DA are actually almost the same
yeah,
party.
but there's like this media posturing that the ANC is the hero of the apartheid era
Oh,
and
yes, and
all
that's
those
not
things.
true either. It's not true either. There were a lot of
Yeah,
different groups in South
it's
Africa that led to its liberation. Continue, yeah.
exactly, and of course, what I think is that people need to remember from the ground that they I mean, it was street committees that worked on how things got to be, and I think what
Also, I think maybe I'm wrong. Was the Communist Party one of them? I'm not sure. There was a Communist
yeah,
Party in South Africa.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
We
I
never
think
should forget the Communist Party. And the Communist Party is still strong in Russia too, even though they're not the most powerful, but they still moderate what Putin does. Continue, sorry.
for sure. So yeah, so there is that. I think the one tactical, the great tactical mistake that was made historically by making the DA the de facto opposition. You know, I
Okay.
think, and then every black person pouring their votes into the ANC.
Yeah.
I think they should have split those votes between the Pan
Yeah.
Africanist Party or
Do you know
AZAPO
what
or
it
something like
reminds
that.
me of?
But here
You know
now,
what it,
in those parties
yeah, sorry.
are a thing of history. Yeah.
Do you know what it reminds me of? In the US, Black Lives Matter was funded a lot by white movements. And it was the face of the black movement, but it ignored the real issues, which is lack of economic power in black neighborhoods and everything. But they're talking about, oh, fight the police. So maybe ANC was hijacked, kind of like Obama, give them a black president and make them think everything is okay. So let's call ANC the liberation movement. So what I'm saying is ANC might be a propaganda tool used by white and corporate interests to lure blacks into thinking, oh, this is our movement. You understand what I'm saying? Rather than what we need to
No,
see, what is the real movement. It's probably not
This
just.
is that is what it has been from the beginning. Of course, there would have been some revolutionary aspects that interacted with the A because they saw it as the great hope of
Yeah.
movement.
The
You know,
Obama of South Africa. Let me stop.
some genuine revolution.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, no, there were some genuine revolutionary aspects to it, but its founding was on this idea of integration. You know,
kind of like
integrating into the
Martin
burning
Luther King.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we spoke about, you know, it was about the idea of consuming in the same way that the white populace does, as opposed to
Yeah.
the
Or
idea
like when people say black capitalism or black banks.
something like
A
that,
black
as
bank is still
opposed
a subsidiary of a white bank. You get my point. Yeah.
as opposed to production, and its efforts were bolstered mostly by, of course, like you were saying, the Communist Party, which had in its ranks a lot of workers, you know, like a lot of the working class.
And that's what we need to do. We need to become Nigeria and South Africa need to go back to production economy and commodities rather than the Western, which is finance. Finance is just printing money, but it's not producing things. We need to produce things, which is what Mugabe was trying to do in the 80s, but due to sanctions, they stopped him from being able to do it. Continue. Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how we're able to swing the politics of the day in terms of making workers more of a bigger voice, because even within what they call the tripartite alliance, the ANC still dominates the conversation and dominates the decision making.
And I also think that we need to. Workers are not just people who work in factories; they are also farmers or people who do local farming, like in Eastern Cape. Black people; these people are workers, so they need to be part of the labor union too. So everybody in the grassroots needs to be part of a labor union, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it needs to. We do need a broader explanation of what of who the working class are, and possibly do away with this idea that there's also a middle class. because
Yeah.
that's also like
Yeah.
very murky.
Yeah.
I don't think there is a middle class in South Africa. I think COVID showed us that everyone is at least a paycheck or a couple of
Oh yeah,
paychecks away from.
so middle class is, so for example here, I make pretty decent money, but within 1 month, if I, like, there was another day I fell down and I almost bashed my head. If I had done that, I'll lose my apartment, I'll lose my job, I won't be able to take care of my son in 1 month. No matter if I'm just making up a number, even if you're making 300,000 rand a month, if you go 1 month or 2 months without working, everything falls apart and you'll never be able to get a job, and you won't even be able to keep your teeth in your mouth. So there's
Yeah,
no such thing. There's the rich, and then there's the poor, and then there's what I would call the middle ground. The people who call it middle class. They are the vulnerable, and they're also they're under the most pressure, because the very poor still get they still get some social services. The very rich don't need them. The middle ground, these are the people who vote, and they think that because they have a Lexus and they have an apartment where they're paying 10,000 rand a month, that they're doing well. But if they say no to their boss or try to leave, or their son gets sick, or they have a crisis in their family, they're done. So I think they're under misery too, whether they call themselves middle class. Last thoughts, then we'll go to our Falabi. Thank you.
yeah. So this idea, especially of a black middle class, is
There's only a working class. Continue. Yeah.
there's only a working class is non-existent, you know. But then the ANC sort of, and also the DA, actually the DA's electorate is made up of these people who think themselves to be middle class and are making financial decisions
Yeah,
based on.
this is the white folks, and the white folks are having to move to. I'm not disrespecting them. The country is so bad; they know that they're not doing well. I have so many white friends who went to Wits, who live in Australia, in England, in the U.S., because they see it coming. They are
Yeah.
not secure. They are not secure, which is why I say Western white supremacy actually only supports the white corporate CEO, but it allows the other whites as feudal servants to have a better position than the blacks. But those guys are in danger, and you're going to see that in Europe and America now that the dollar is coming down. What do you think? And then we'll go to Afolabi. I don't want Afolabi to fall asleep.
Yeah, no, man, I think
Yeah.
I'm covered, man. I think I'm covered.
Oh yeah, thank you. And what you added, this is what I want to thank you about. When we do our show, we never know what we're going to talk about. But once you talk and Salim talks, it brings up new topics that we can explore. So I want to thank you very much. So quick thoughts, then we'll get back to Salim, because I want Salim to get some words into. What are your thoughts so far about what we've talked about, Afolabi? Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
basically,
what angle do you want to take?
the ANC came to popularity riding on the crest of a wave, having been ideologically seen as the conquerors of apartheid. But ever since,
Yeah.
there's been economic stagnation, and their popularity has declined because of high unemployment, corruption, and so many other issues. And even they had
Like service
issues with,
delivery. Service
yes,
delivery is a big thing. Yeah.
a good example is the National Electric Company, ESCOM. So they've
Yeah.
had so many issues that they had to deal with. And then now you can see their voters are now split between EFF and Jacob Zuma's MK party. So
Yeah.
if they have to form a coalition, it will be very, very difficult, because the MK and EFF are radical leftist group, and they will have to make a lot of compromise on policies. So I don't see that as being easy for them. And the election results indicate a significant political shift in South Africa, which might cause a little bit of instability. You know, you can
Yeah.
see the ANC's dominance is waning. So, and they might have to make a lot of difficult political compromises, which is not easy for them. So it looks like they're on a brink now in South Africa. I don't know how it's going to pan out.
Yeah, we don't
but
know how it's going to go, but my prediction is that the ANC will, as time goes by, they're going to go down to only having 30%. But they're very lucky
Yes.
that we haven't been mentioned PAC. What does PAC stand for? That's another party in South Africa. What's the PAC?
The Pan-Africanist
Yeah,
Congress.
these parties are still powerful. So what we're seeing is the slow decline of the West, and ANC might eventually become like DA, and DA will not exist in South Africa anymore. But I think that in South Africa, it will become what's going to happen economically is that if you're white and you live there, you still have advantages because you have 300 years of education and stuff, which the other populations need to make up, and they'll still be able to live there and do well. But and hopefully it doesn't go to a genocide where people start attacking them. So I think South Africa might be moving in the right direction because it's a critical country, unlike the U.S. and Nigeria, which only have two main parties, which is the same party. That's what I think. What are your thoughts, Salim? Thank you, Afolabi, for prompting that too. Thank you. Okay, yeah. And then I'm going to go to I want to see if you agree with what I said. Then we'll go to Lerato to see if you guys agree or what you see happening moving forward. Yeah, yeah.
I think I still stick with the idea of having one, not one party, but one government in a way, with different mindsets.
So you're thinking about communism then? That's communism. That's communism. I'm not against communism, but that's communism. And I think that it doesn't matter if you have different parties, if you have a constitution that covers everything so that the parties can't change the legislation. Continue. Yeah. Yeah.
I just feel like everybody wants the piece of the pie, and you have 20 plus political parties that actually actually all want to rule. They want to rule at the same time. So with an idea that I would have is that why not make maybe one specific party with different types of regimes, if I'm correct.
Fractions, yeah, fractions
you
within the party. Factions, not fractions. Factions,
yeah. So that everybody could actually have a make decision on the country's whereabouts, which direction to move.
So I think
the prime ministers and minister of education on all of that.
I think that's a brilliant idea. So what I think is that South Africa needs to have a socialistic and almost a communistic constitution that can't be changed, that talks about how land, resources. We're not taking land from people, but
exactly
minerals and resources have to be used for the betterment of the people. This is how China works, and this is why they're dominating the world now. And Russia's getting closer to that. So I think then you can have your political parties, but they don't have the same type of legislative power to change the Constitution. So they can only make nuances based on the Constitution. What do you think, Lerato? Thank you for that, Salim. That is brilliant. We're going to be talking about that for the next 6 weeks. Continue, Lerato. What do you think about that? Do you think South Africa is moving towards almost being like a communist country in which you have a very immovable constitution, but you can still have capitalism and some variations of the Constitution, and that's where the competition comes.
Yeah. I think we sort of find ourselves in a state of indecision, although capitalism seems to be weighing on us very strongly. Because of the conveniences that it presents. And
capitalism is also a very creative force. Without capitalism, we wouldn't be poets because we wouldn't have pain to talk about. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, I also think we would probably have better problems to deal with than the ones.
You're right about that. That's going to be our next quote. Yeah. So. Yeah. So continue. We're going to end with you. Before we continue with you, I'm sorry to cut you. How much time do we have, Afolabi? Yeah.
We have about.
There's like 4 minutes.
About 3 minutes. About 3 minutes.
Okay, so let Lerato end with his train of thought. Yeah, and then we're going to be back because it seems like we can't shake this political show. We're trying to get to cultural stuff, but politics is important. Continue, Lerato. You can end us for today.
Yeah. So it's very unclear at the moment actually which direction we're headed. And there are actually like some very strong legal minds within the country that are urging for constitutional reform.
I think so. I'm going to say that's the most important thing. The Constitution has to be reformed and enshrined. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah. Because the kind of constitution that we have now was actually meant to be transitional. I mean, a lot of the symbols, even that we carry culturally, the flag,
even the name of the country needs to change. But that's a story for another day. Continue.
These were meant to be transitional things. But I think that is where the core of this thing is, that because we have not settled on a particular kind of ideal and identity, we find ourselves always sort of like on the, like, trying to balance
Yeah.
between a socialist and a
Yeah.
capitalist.
But I think that because
Yeah.
South Africans are critical, I said it's one of the most critical countries I've ever seen, where nobody trusts government, nobody trusts the West. I think it will eventually tilt towards the right direction or break out into absolute violence due to anger. Continue. Sorry. Yeah.
But I think the state with the right kind of direction, with its, if the government stays true to its idea of diverse voices from different parties,
Yeah.
adding to a collective idea.
Even the
as
DA, even the DA. Continue.
I think as Salim was saying, like this idea of a single-minded government,
Yeah.
then we'll actually be able to go somewhere. But we're very far from that because we disagree on
Yeah.
a lot of policies.
But
The DA is thinking a lot about privatization, while the EFF is thinking extremely about nationalization.
I think MK is a good middle ground. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm not very familiar with what the MK.
Me too either. I'm making a hypothesis.
What it necessarily stands for, because it's still a very new party,
It's also murky. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it stands for the same things that the ANC stands for, because it's an ANC.
You're right. So we need to focus on EFF, also PAC, and some other smaller. And so thank God for the EFF, to be honest with you.
I think MK was set up to just break ANC's monopoly, basically.
Yeah, and we don't know who's funding them also. So I want to thank you guys. If you've seen how our show works, we never have a script, and we always come full circle, and we're positive. We're not trying to talk bad about DA or any parties, but we're going to point out each party's faults. Even EFF, which I support, has faults, because I think that like you said, Andile, remember Lerato, Andile was pushed out, and and also I think this guy Malema has too much power. Hey Malema, if you see me on TV, don't be angry at me, please, because I know you're very good with your tongue. You'll make me cry by saying something bad. But the point I'm making is that the country has to come together and deal with its diversity, which is the Rainbow Nation. But the Rainbow Nation can also be a curse, because you have different colors and different cultures, and it leads to clash. But whether we like it or not, South Africa is the most diverse country in Africa, so that gives it complex problems. Okay, thank you very much, Lerato. Thank you, Salim. Salim, how is it in Mpumalanga? Is it cold? I know, Lerato, you must be cold because it's almost winter in your area, right?
We have 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We need to round up.
Okay, Salim, is it hot in Mpumalanga? Yeah.
Nah, it's raining.
It's raining. So it's you guys winter almost, and it's our summertime. So I want to thank you guys, and we're